On today's episode of Locked On 76ers, Keith and I discuss Tyrese Maxey and his place in the city, not just as a player, but a person who seems to be really captivating the city. We'll get into that next and why that means so much right here, Locked On 76ers.
What's up, D?
What's up, Keith? How you doing, man? Good to be back with you.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Been a week, huh?
It's been a week. It's
Been
been
a
a week.
busy week. Well, we need to get back into it ourselves, man. Welcome, everybody, to Locked On 76ers. I'm Divine Givens from 97.5 The Fanatic Radio in Philadelphia, alongside my co-host and partner, as always, here on Locked On 76ers, Keith Pompey, the Sixers beat writer. We thank you all for making Locked On 76ers your first listen. Just remember, Locked On 76ers is free and available, so spread the word all platforms, including at YouTube at Locked On 76ers. So listen, man, while you were away and handling the business that you had to handle, we had a chance to see, even though I know you tweeted it out there because you got wind of it pretty early. Tyrese Maxey had a basketball camp here in town to begin a 3-city basketball camp tour for him. But having himself go to back home to his state of Texas, and then also to Kentucky, where he played the 1 year collegiately for the Wildcats. But he started off here, man, and it just made me think about what his place is, because looking at some of the video and some of the highlights from that day on Saturday with his camp with kids, and it was free, right, Keith? So that was also a big thing for the local kids to be able to go out there, see somebody, and see somebody that they like. And Tyrese Maxey feel like they can just reach out and touch, and he's right there. And his personality, how personable he is, and he was going to do it right. And from all accounts, he did. But even before that, when it was just simply announced, when you put it out there, when it was put out there by his camp and by the team and all, you just read some of the comments on social media where this kid has it right. This kid has it right. He's very likable. People just love him. He has star written all over him, which I agree with. I think he does have star written all over him. This right here, again, just kind of cements him for right now where we are as at the top of one of the most favorite people, most likable people in sports. And we're not talking about somebody who doesn't mean a lot to the team, because we know what he means to the 76ers. Why do you think that is about him? Why does he connect so well with the city and the fan base?
I think it has to go with how he was raised. I mean, if you want to be real with it, I mean, he's a likable dude. He's a humble dude. But you got to give credit to his mom and dad. I mean, it starts there, and you got to give credit to their parents because they instilled it into them. It's one of those things where when you were a kid growing up, and you know how like you were raised a certain way. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. That's how Tyrese Maxey is. I mean, the one thing that really stood out to me was how, like, whenever he sees ladies, he calls them Miss such and such. He doesn't have to do that, but that's just who he is.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at it, Tyrese Maxey is a guy from Garland, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas, right? It's kind of like but there's two high schools there. Well, he went to the one school at South Garland that's been down on his luck in a couple of years because what his father wanted him to be there. He wanted, he could have, Tyrese Maxey was the number one player in the state of Texas. He was a McDonald's All American. He could have easily went to Mount Verde Academy. Could have went to Oak Hill Academy. He could have went to some private school somewhere in Texas. But nah, he stayed and went to the public school. The public school that, was kind of like down on his luck when it came down to basketball recently. But he went there. He was like the valedictorian, everything. So I think when we look at this and we see who he is, it has a lot to do with how he was raised in his upbringing.
Absolutely. And for him to follow through, that's not an easy thing to do. We can all get the right upbringing and do all of that, but not following through is a big part of it. And that's exactly what he does. You talked about seeing the ladies and the women, and he calls them Miss whoever, Miss X. And he always shows that respect in that way. He does it with the men too, Keith, because he is still a 21-year-old kid, and he makes sure that he says Mr. So-and-so to a lot of people, especially in the media when he's addressing them. And it is a really cool thing to see whenever you see him away from the arena and in different settings, just normal settings, he's the same. He never changes, and he's always that. So to see that, and to see that he aspires to continue to do that, and the part that we also care about once we got to know him, looking and really enjoying that person that he is the basketball part of it. How much do you think? Because I do think he has star written all over him. Whether he reaches it, we don't know. But the one thing we do know is he's going to work hard to achieve that. Do you agree that he does have that star written all over him? And what is his ceiling?
Oh man, it's kind of hard to say right now. Well, I mean, I think he could become an all-star. I do. I mean, I think he could develop into an all-star. Right now with him being the young buck on his team, is kind of sort of like, you know, his the time isn't exactly now for him, but I can see the torch being passed. Once this pass is going to be to him. I mean, when you look at it, I hate to say it, like, Embiid has an injury history. James Harden is in his 30s. Maxey is the type of guy, if you're the 76ers, you're not going to trade him. You're going to keep him on, because once Embiid's career is over with and Harden's career is over it, you got a superstar right here. And like, I don't want to compare him to elites, but it believes it's kind of like how like Barkley was when he played with Doc and Moses. Now again, I feel kind of crazy saying that because Barkley's such a great guy, but what I mean by that is, you got a guy. Now, he wasn't like the top pick like Barkley and them, but what it is you're in a situation where you can blossom to become an elite talent, but you can also learn from Hall of Famers on how to play the game
Sure.
and to
Yeah.
do certain things, so where the torch can be passed. So maybe that's not a real good comparison from an all-star type thing, because I don't want to put that pressure on him. But what I'm just saying is, like, he's just this guy who can come in here where he has elites in front of him and he can learn. But I do expect him, if he's not traded, to be that guy. To whereas when the torch is passed, that he's going to be the face of the franchise. I mean, let's face it, the Sixers are going to have a new arena in 10 years from now. And the hope and the wish is, because Embiid's not going to be here, Harden's not going to be here. But the hope is, if the Sixers want to sell tickets, is that Maxey becomes the guy to where everyone is going to want to see
In,
Maxey play in
in
that
year
arena.
in year 13 of his career.
Yeah, but you know what? It's funny. You look at these players nowadays, and it just seems like if
Yeah.
they stay healthy, they play. They play.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then hopefully you'll get, for the Sixers, that they'll get somebody else to play alongside them.
Well, I think he'll reach and achieve that level of stardom in the NBA. Again, maybe an all-star. I certainly didn't say superstar. So before anybody jumps on me about that, I chose my words correctly. I think he has star potential in this league. So we'll see how soon he gets there.
And also, I want to make sure people don't get this twisted. Like I said, I'm not comparing him to Charles Barkley. I don't want
Not
to
at
put that
all.
pressure on him.
Not at
What I'm
all.
trying to say is, he's in a situation where you can. Now the thing is, his situation is different because he was the 21st pick, but at
Yes.
the same time, he's a young guy who can ascend to become an all-star, who is fortunate enough to have two Hall of Famers on his roster that he can learn from.
And as much as they were at least reportedly searching for that third star key, might have already had him in their own, on their own roster, in their own locker room. Next up, the man who is guiding this team to reach those levels that we always talk about, which is deep into the postseason, hopefully the NBA Finals. Doc Rivers. We haven't talked much about him this offseason. He's been very, very quiet this offseason, and maybe that's on purpose, maybe not. But overall, we need to talk about him next, and how much pressure is on him for this upcoming year. And in our final segment, we'll also talk about the six-man role. With them being deeper, George Niang seemed to be the sixth man of last season. Does he remain the same? We'll answer that question in the final one right here on Locked On 76ers. But first, I need to tell everybody, as it's been so hot, Built Bar, right? No candy, no cakes, none of that stuff. You're out there working out here in Philadelphia. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. Ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough. Yes, you're all digging into those twists of the tubes of the cookie dough and scooping them out with a spoon and eating them. Well, we have them covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to a new favorite. Cookie dough chunk puffs have a light and chewy texture, real cookie chunks, dough chunks, and of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Run to built.com to snag a box for you and your family. Only 160 calories and a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. It's the perfect treat. Or you can find a really good hiding place and just hoard them for yourself if you don't want to share them. Overall, what's great about Built is all their bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides a ton of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. You're going to love the cookie dough chunk puffs. Built is a better, perfect protein bar, and they taste better than a candy bar. Dish the calories, the fat, and the sugar. Grab yourself a Built bar. Just simply go to built.com. Use promo code LOCK15. Tell them that Keith and I sent you and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 to jump in on the Built bars.
And tell them to do it today, people. Do it today. Say, Built Bar, send me my stuff today, people.
Yes, Built Bar. We're Built Bar. Send the people the stuff. All right, get those protein bars out there, and mine too, because I haven't got my new shipment. So there you go. Look at that. After that fine reading, welcome back to Locked On 76ers. It's the summertime. We're having fun. It's August. We can have some fun as we thank you again for hanging out with us on this Monday. And we thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast for nightly recaps of every NBA game, where there's simply great conversation with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. You may find one of us on there from time to time, like Keith has been known to pop up every now and then on the Locked On Now podcast. But we need to talk about Doc Rivers, man. He's been real quiet this offseason. And again, as I said before we stepped away, maybe that was by design. And with that, he's kind of gone under the radar a little bit. We did see the press release when James Harden officially locked in with his contract with the team, and they had a couple of quotes from him. We also saw him speaking to Vince Carter on his podcast, Keith, and looking from afar. And you mentioned this before I did, and it was a great question. Is there a lot of pressure? Is he a lot of pressure for Doc Rivers for this season, where he might be at the end, trying to save his job?
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, here's the thing. I think it's two ways. If James Harden comes out and he plays the way that he played last year, talking about if he struggles, then the people are going to look at it like, ooh, Daryl, right? What did you do, right? Even though the guy opted out of the money, that people are saying we got him for 2 years, right? But aside from that, the pressure's on Doc. I was about to say Brett Brown. The pressure's on Doc Rivers, because when you look at it,
year 3,
Year
3
is year 3, and the thing is, let's face it, when you go out there and you got 2 Hall of Famers on your team, future Hall of Famers, you have Tyrese Maxey, and you go out there and you say we needed toughness, so you upgrade the roster and you got 3 tough players who can all hit threes. 3 and D guys, right? That you need. This team shouldn't lose in the second round. Matter of fact, this team should be contending for the Eastern Conference Finals, right? And if you don't do that,
mm-hmm.
Doc Rivers you're going to look at it and say, hey, look, we got Harden and Embiid. Maxey is thriving. We got everything that you needed to win a championship. Why aren't they winning?
As a fourth option.
As your fourth option. Why haven't we won? And I think with that being said, people are going to look at the coach and they're going to say, you know what, Doc, it's like you got to do better. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen if Doc Rivers if he struggles this year. So I think that's what's going to happen.
And I'll go even further. For me, it's not even about the only reason it would be about the regular season, Keith, is if they don't reach their 50-win plateau in the top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference that is expected of them. Because as we've talked about, that's a norm, that's the standard, that's what it's supposed to be. So as long as they get there, everything will be fine. It's about the postseason. It's about advancing past that second round. And as you said, being a contender can no longer have second round exits. I don't care how good the other teams in the East are. You have to get past them. They have to stop you. And we can come up with not even, I mean, listen, they haven't advanced. You can say Joel Embiid with the broken face and the hand. That is a fact. That did happen that way, and others didn't step up where he was trying to play through that stuff. But in the end, you have to get past the second round. There's no longer. You haven't done anything better than what Brett Brown did. And Brett Brown got to a game 7 too. So it just doesn't matter anymore about the regular season unless they don't have the top 3 seed and they underperform in the preseason. I mean, in the regular season. Now, look, if they're a 6 seed and somehow they get it together in the postseason and go to the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals, then he's safe. Then he'll be fine. But we'll be paying attention to these scenarios. But there's definitely pressure on Doc Rivers this season to make sure that they advance past the second round. 100%. So I'm in agreement with you on that one. And with that, one of the new additions that have been talked about is my 6-man candidate, DeAnthony Melton. We'll find out what Keith's is. And maybe as you guys make your comments after the show and leave them for us on social media or however you guys are going to do it, we'll see what you guys think about the 6-man and who that should be and why that's going to be an important role for this basketball team. That's next, right here, Locked On 76ers. 70 Locked On 76ers, Keith Pompey, Divine Givens. Welcome back, Keith. A lot of changes made last season. Georges Niang, 6-man of this basketball team, the more consistent guy off the bench, the most consistent as the first one to step off. And sometimes it doesn't really mean that. Yes, you are the 6-man, but you might be the 7th man on a couple of nights just based on foul trouble and things of that nature. But the guy we look to come off the bench first is important. The waves that Doc Rivers likes to substitute, where he would have both Harden and Harris come off as the first substitutions. Then that would be, let's say, Danny Green at the time with Georges Niang. They would come into the game, and Tyrese Maxey would take over the ball handling responsibilities. Maxey and Embiid then come out as that second wave, and then they just funnel in how they do. But for them now being deeper, we believe. Who is your candidate for the 6-man for this basketball team?
You know, I keep going back and forth because I think that what we're going to see is we may see a different rotation now, right? I mean, we may see Tobias staying a little bit longer, right? And so I do see Melton being the first guy coming off the bench, but I could see another guard come in with him. Like I could see Melton coming in and possibly Matisse coming in as well. Right. And whereas you slide Tobias to the 4, right? You know what I mean? And in that instance, and the reason, but I do see Melton being there now. If we're assuming nobody gets traded, right? Nobody else, but I do see Melton coming in at the same time with Matisse. The reason why I'm doing this is not about those two, but when you have those guys on the floor, that's going to enable Tobias to be more of the focal point. And he can have a 2-man game in there with, let's assume if it's, Maxey too in there, but that's a lot of guards. But I do think that Tobias will stay in longer, or I assume he could, and then you can run the offense through him. But I do see Melton coming in early, being the 6-man, but I also see Matisse coming in with him as well.
Yeah, and then the other candidate that I actually look at is Daniel House, and looking at House because let's say Tucker, who I think will start, is the first substitution. They want to give him a quick breather, and they bring in House as the guy instead of another guard, where it's House being more of a wing with Harris, Harden, and Maxey to go along with Embiid, which is more of a natural fit when you just talk substituting wing for wing, House for Tucker. So there are a couple of candidates. There may be some games where the matchup calls for Georges Niang to be the first one off the bench, or Matisse Thybulle to be the lone one to come off the bench first. I think with a lot of options there now, they can go in a lot of different ways. And as you said, situation is different now where there's depth. So they don't have to do it that way anymore, where you had to keep two on the floor at all times because of the lack of depth that you had there with the other players behind them coming off the bench. You feel more comfortable. So now maybe it will be one, maybe it will be two, just because that's how the game is flowing. And it's like, okay, right now, Harden doesn't have it. Let's get him off the floor real quick. Give him a quick breather. Bring him back faster because of how things are playing out for James Harden in that moment. So Doc Rivers is going to have a lot of different options to go in a lot of different areas when it comes to the sixth man. But I think, and we're in agreement here right now, at least today, that DeAnthony Melton is probably the candidate to be the first one to come off more consistently off the bench for the 76ers. So very interesting to see. It's fun to have these type of conversations, knowing that, again, they're going to be a good basketball team, and they just simply now have to put it all together as well. So good stuff, man. As always, great to catch up with you on these summer days, man, where once again we let people know that we are doing 3 podcasts a week. We're going to do 4 this week, 4 next week, because things got so hectic for us with our schedules that we were unable to do so last week. So we'll make sure we bring 4 this week and 4 next week for everybody here on the Locked On 76ers podcast. We thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. That make your second listen Locked On NBA. We're Locked On experts are covering the biggest stories around the NBA in less than 30 minutes every Monday through Friday. Is free and available wherever you do get your podcast. Keith, let people know where they can talk with us and send us some of their thoughts on not only Tyrese Maxey, Doc Rivers, but also the sixth man for next season. Where can they reach out to us?
Well, like my man D said, wherever you get your podcast, you can get this podcast, right? I mean, that's our regular podcast, the one you listen to. But hey, if you want to watch us and see us and you want to get the YouTube channel, go to Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. When you see the Liberty Bell, click on the Liberty Bell, and that's how you become a subscriber. That way you'll get, all our podcasts. Also, what you want to do is you want to go to 97.5 FM from 6 to 10 p.m. and you can listen to my man D, go to his Divine Giving show. And you can do that from 6 to 10 on Mondays through Fridays.
I'm off this week. I needed a break.
Off this week. Well, next
break.
My brother needed a break. So, but make sure you do that next week. So today is Monday, so I'm glad you set me straight. But I'm still going to listen to whoever's on there.
Tyler will be there.
You listen to him. Yeah. So then you can follow my man Divine at Divine G975 on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. And like I'm off this week from my day job. My day job is being a Sixers lead beat reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer. So I'm off this week, but make sure that you follow our Sixers coverage on Inquirer.com and make sure you listen to 97.5 FM and also all the Locked On podcast channels.
For sure. And everybody stay cool and enjoy your day here in Philadelphia or wherever you are. Enjoy your day. We hope you have a great Monday. Thanks for spending some time with us. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, Keith.
Peace, bro.